All right, here I am. It's probably weeks since the last video, but I'm busy. The shop's open, it's humming along. I've had a ton of appointments, trying to keep up with scheduling, trying to figure out just doing this thing. Try to paint the walls, try to get it all super professional, but the reality is I'm in the corner of another shop and I'm just starting out. Everybody starts from somewhere. I got real in my head. I haven't been doing YouTube videos, so here's a quick wrap up and get you guys back up to speed with everything I'm doing, because there's a lot of crazy stuff and I kind of take it for granted, to be honest. I'm thinking so far ahead in where I want to go and what I want to do that I'm forgetting where I'm at. So I'm starting a business, I'm busy. I'm on Travis Reeder's pro team as his car chief, so traveling around the country and doing that 8 weeks out of the year, and it's a full week now with Pro Spec. So, all right, let's dive into it. The Audi S4 V8 rear-wheel drive. So since the last probably videos, I built a pit box. It's done, it's functional. There's a lot of stuff that I still want to add to it. I want to put some paneling on so I can put sponsors on that. You know, obviously the wheels and tires go up there. A lot of little things. I'm going to do a whole video on that pit box once I get it a little bit more fully set up and know exactly what's going to go in it, where spares are going to go and all that. But I'm excited to show that to you guys. As far as update on the car, this is a typical video for me. I'm changing everything up, going completely different direction with everything, and I am 110% fully okay with it. So, the 3 liters in the car, everything's plumbed for the rear mount radiator, everything's ready to go, fuel system, which we'll go over in a second, and it doesn't start. I made a mistake, and I cut a CAN bus or multiple CAN bus wires. I don't have the modules in the car, like airbag module. ABS is there, but I was going to remove it. Ran into CAN issues with communication. Reached out to a couple tuners across the world. Nobody sounds real confident working with me. And at this point in what I'm doing and where I'm at in everything in life, I can't take risks right now. Not something that's basically out of my control. I took a big risk in hiring a technician to help me out. So I could primarily be out front, deal with vendors, things like that, customers, and have somebody help me out with the mechanical work, just do oil changes, timing belts, real basic stuff. That backfired and burned me potentially very hard. Luckily I was able to step in and do it myself, get it done right, get it done correctly, but I'm not going down that or making that mistake again. So I'm doing everything for Mulletsport Racing, performance shop here in Gilbert, Arizona. I'm gonna be the wrench, the front guy, everything. So with Travis Reeder and Pro FD, my wife, a life outside of all of this stuff, and building, maintaining, and racing this vehicle. So 3 liters coming out actually today. So this probably won't make it in the YouTube video, but guess what? That's why we do YouTube videos, and there's multiple ones of them. So I'm gonna go over the fuel system in that real quick, but everything basically got done with it. It was ready to go. I'm gonna document it here real quick so somebody could follow my footsteps and be brave enough to continue with the 3 liter, because I'm not. I am an American with a mullet and I want a big V8 in the car. So we're gonna be putting an LS in it for now. My dad has a 4.8 out of his race truck, which I think I've teased on the channel a little bit, but we're gonna be doing more. This truck's pretty much done. We've already lined it, done some test hits, made some modifications of the rear suspension. Again, that's another thing that takes a bunch of my time, is helping him and making sure he goes racing. LS, getting a 4.8 with a camshaft. We're gonna do a real quick, real down and dirty, junkyard style fluff. We're gonna put it in the car. I got an AR5 5-speed transmission, which is basically like a baby T56 out of the Colorado. Got a fab bought adapter plate, which I actually ordered this morning. That'll be coming. We're gonna get the motor and transmission in the car, mock up headers. I'm gonna put an 8.8 Ford differential in the back. I've already kind of mocked that up. I've been thinking about that long term, but American power plant in this Audi. Why? Yep, I'm gonna get a lot of hating comments. I'm gonna get, why didn't you stick with the Audi motor? You always build Audi motors. Yes, I absolutely love them. The 3-liter scares me. It's really expensive. If it blows up, I'm in trouble. Don't make a lot of money starting a business, having a $4,000 long block, potentially to throw a rod out of it, having a trans that nobody's really done rear wheel drive, having a trans that nobody's really pushed a lot of power with. I need more power eventually, not right this second, but it's on the horizon. If I get this chassis hooked up and I get these tires and that working, I'm gonna need more power, or I'm at least gonna want that room to not be pushing this motor on the ragged edge all the time. So it's a decision I have to make going forward and doing my own privateer company and race program. I'm not a millionaire. I don't have a rich grandfather. This is 110% all my money. I don't have much sponsorship this year. I don't have people giving me a ton of money, and the people that are giving me money want to see the car out driving. If I blow this thing up and I spend all this time, or I rely on a tuner that's in freaking Russia and it doesn't work, I'm left high and dry. So I need to make a decision right now, and the decision is pull it out, put an LS in it, focus on the chassis, focus on building Audi drift cars, and later on, I would love to build a 40T, EA888 4-cylinder, 27T single turbo would be sick. Can't do it, don't have time, don't have money, unrealistic expectations as of right now. Love to do it in the future. What we're gonna do today, I am going to walk around the car, show you everything that I've completed on the car, things that didn't go well on the car, which I haven't updated you guys on YouTube yet, and all the cool modifications that I did. I wasn't able to test, unfortunately, but I'm pretty darn sure would work and function. Super fun stuff on the motor, right? Nobody's ever done this before. The front heat exchanger was relocated using the factory ECS mounts. I built little tabbies or razors because it was just too low. I didn't like how low it was in the car, so this actually sits level / slightly above the oil pan. Using factory brackets, just drilled them into the front horns here. Modified the factory fan assembly that's mounted here, really nice and rigid, on the heat exchanger. So the idea was the factory fans would run the heat exchanger, obviously radiators in the back, coolant lines. I flipped the factory coolant lines. I basically cut off the hard end, you know, like crimped one-time use clamps, cut those off. This is actually, the upper radiator hose was actually the lower radiator hose, and the upper radiator hose is now the lower radiator hose. So this all worked, it's all plumbed, goes through the firewall, goes through the inside of the car. Heat exchanging system's pretty much the same as it was before. I don't know if I really ever talked about this, but AC delete, I was the only one and first one in the world to do AC delete on a 3-liter V8. Coolant, like bleeder line or steam port, that runs all the way back to the back of the car. Heat exchanger feed or supply for the divorce system runs to the back of the car. Vents for the supercharger run to the back of the car. All right, let's go into the cage in the back of the car. Car is an absolute mess, and why? Because I was chasing wiring. Here's my snap-on power probe. It's in the middle of stuff. So, cage. Had a cage guy come. Said he was going to do this amazing, awesome job. He was going to powder coat the cage. It was going to look all great. He was going to make it super tight fitting, whatever way I wanted. Price seems fair. Wanted to do media, everything like that. I said, good to go. Let's get him over here. Pulled the car over the shop, planned everything. Said it was going to take 2 to 3 days. 3 weeks later, the welds aren't the greatest. Not stoked. I feel like I could have probably done them better. Mind you, the plan was to TIG weld the entire cage. Well, TIG welding was going like shit. He was blowing through the floor, couldn't seem to figure it out. So he ended up using my MIG welder and welded up the cage. Missed a whole bunch of tubes, meaning like not welding all the way around the tube. Coping wasn't really done all that great. Like, I really feel like I could have done a better cage, and I paid this dude because of time and trying to start my business that I was just gonna have him do it while I was working on the business side. That totally backfired. So, when in doubt, if you can do it yourself, make the time, do it yourself. And going into the cage initially was it was supposed to get powder coated white, but since it didn't really get powder coated, and I tried to spend a full night until like 12 in the morning painting the cage white. That didn't turn out so good. So guess what? Steel it gray is the way it is. Also, didn't plan on doing this rear firewall setup, but it turned out that way. And I'm actually kind of happy with it. I really like that everything is the back, which I'll show you because I keep teasing you and I like doing that. So everything's at the back. It's super functional, super serviceable, and up here honestly feels like a spaceship, and I absolutely love it. Now, what really did not go well with the cage was he lit the freaking car on fire. So what I can determine is the underbody paneling was still on the car, but it's like a meshed fiberglass type thing. He did the other side just fine, no issues. I welded on this car and welded brackets in and everything else with no issues. Luckily, there was no fuel lines in the car and no fuel because I had already taken the fuel tank out at home. But from what I could tell, there was a bunch of from a MIG welder, if you arc it and push the wire through, there's leaves a little cat's tail on it. There was a ton of freaking cat's tails underneath. So what I think is he's blowing holes through it and he kept cattailing it, and those blowing holes was dipping hot molten metal onto the lower panel. Well, that fell down and basically caught fire, rolled up the side of the car. Not the smartest employee of where I work decided to unleash an entire freaking bottle of fire extinguisher retardant and covered the entire shop here. All the cars were caked. This thing's filthy, nasty, dirty. I mean, there's still dust everywhere. I'm so frustrated because the car is so dirty and I'm constantly having to clean it and constantly finding basically more fire retardant and more dust and stuff. So this messed me up mentally. Freaking caught the car on fire. Cage wasn't done right, doesn't look good. There's runs in it from me trying to paint it. It's not the way I want to do it, but I'm so backed up and so behind schedule and not getting stuff done because I'm focusing all these little aspects that I shifted my focus to just get everything in the car, get it functional. We can tear the car apart next year and make everything beautiful. I can sand down the cage. I can pay somebody to professionally paint it. I could do whatever, but cage is in the car. It's safe now that I've gone around and welded everything. It's legal. It has anti-intrusion bars, not done well, but they're there. We'll redo that next year. The firewall's there. It should work. So, on to the back of the car. Okay, back of the car. I am actually pretty proud of this in general. There's little things that I would like to do better, but the general idea of how this car was put together was my idea, and the execution or layout and that was very good. So, mind you, I was still running wiring, so it looks like a mess right now, but I'm not gonna spend the time to clean it up to show you guys. I'm gonna show you it raw. So, 5-gallon fuel cell is in the back. It's an aluminum fuel tank. Obviously, you got a feeder up here from SDHQ right down the street. This allows, oh, I should probably step back just a second. So, doors are off the car. They're over there because they're fully gutted. No windows, no interior mechanisms, all that stuff. Sunroof's still back there. It's out of the car currently, but I'm gonna make a fiberglass panel for the top to replace it. But the idea is this is just above the window line. So you don't even have to open the door. You don't have to pull the trunk off. You don't have to do anything but unscrew this guy and fuel up the car. And it fast fuels because of the big opening. There's that. This is the heat exchanger reservoir, or was the heat exchanger reservoir because the LS won't be using it. But obviously quick sight, real basic Amazon stuff, but Amazon, basically catch can assembly, that was the vent for the fuel system. So it's way above the fill, so it'll never overfill, but it's just a way for it to vent. It's got a rollover valve in it. So it can't, like, if the car were to tip over again on its side, it wouldn't spill fuel out of it. Water methanol, reservoir there for the water methanol system. Fuel system, real quick, has a pre-filter coming out of it with a 30 micron or 10 micron filter in it. That goes to the surge tank here. It's gravity fed because of up higher filling point, so it gravity feeds into the surge tank. Surge tank has dual 044 fuel pumps. This is an IE surge tank that I got back when they were a sponsor of the B5. I never went to the dual fuel setup, but I wanted to, so I was thinking overkill for this car. Dual fuel pumps, Y into dash 8, 100 micron, really fine filter for the direct injection. It tees off right here to go to a Holley fuel pressure regulator. This is because there is no fuel pressure regulator up in the front of the car because it's a returnless system. So bleeds off fuel pressure, goes back into the surge tank to refill it. Main dash 8 runs underneath the car all the way up to the high pressure fuel pump. You guys can see that in a photo, or I posted on Instagram about that. Obviously radiators back here, overflow puke tank, single fan. This is a early 2000s Chevrolet V8 radiator. So guess what? This is the factory style radiator that would have come in the motor we're gonna put in the car. So this will be plenty fine. I do need to add electric inline back from my old B5. NOS, baby! Yep, nitrous was on the car. It was supposed to go into the 3-liter. I had a Hemi throttle body set up on it, so I bought the Hemi plate. I was gonna spray some nitrous through it just for that little extra power bump if I needed it. Anti-gravity battery installed, same that used to be in the back of the car, just mounted up here. I built a nice little plate that you can't see. Battery is not bolted down, but it's super sturdy right there. That's pretty much it. So everything is serviceable in the back of the car from the passenger rear. Fuel pumps, fuel pressure regulator, fan, all the fluid, top off, fun stuff. And the only thing is the driver's side would have to pull out the nitrous bottle. It's got this nice quick release setup on it. All right, I already started tearing into the car, but I need to get it up in the air and show you guys the Cooler Works shifter. Sorry, my hair's all a mess, but gotta pull that mullet back when we're working. So before I lift it, Cooler Works was installed. Does function properly. Obviously, I didn't get to drive it, but fully functional. First, second, third, fourth, reverse lockout for 5th, 6th, and reverse lockout for reverse. So fully functional. B5 adapted to B8. I'll show you guys underneath how I adapted it, and we'll finish getting this motor and transmission out of the car. So JXB shifter, look, paint mark. It was going back together, guys. 034 secondary air deletes. The 1.8Ts work on this. So there's the little pluggy. JXB full shifter setup on this car. It had the plate on it with the ECS tuning short throw shifter before I did the Cooler Works. So all that's upgraded, super tight. It's got the crossover bar. That works extremely well. Probably the best shifter setup and feel. I know the Cooler Works looked awesome and worked awesome. So little washers, spacers to line everything up. I had to drill out one of the holes up here at the very top because I wanted the shortest throw. I mean, the short throw is ridiculously short, but just drilled out that top hole. The other hole's the same size, some spacers, obviously run nuts and bolts, and yeah, you put a Cooler Works in a B8. Not gonna hide any secrets from you guys. I really want to see somebody keep doing this, but probably in more of a street slash not full-blown race car. So